I stood in my new kitchen in Portland, Oregon, gripping a dented metal camp mug I'd carried since my days at University of Montana, the kind of mug that fit my hand like a secret handshake. Sunlight streamed through the half-uncovered windows, spilling over pine cabinets and wide plank floors, making the house feel awake, like it was stretching and yawning beside me. For the first time in a decade, there were no housemates dropping pans at dawn, no fridge humming with mystery takeout, just silence, just me. I breathed in the weight of a dream I'd built dollar by dollar for 14 years. This house, 2 stories, 3 bedrooms, a fenced yard big enough for tomatoes and maybe blueberries, wasn't just a roof and walls. It was freedom. Mine. No mortgage, no co-borrowers, no favors owed. I'd worked for every square foot. Then my phone buzzed, slicing through the calm. A text from my father at 7:52, IEMM. "We need to discuss the house. Call me soon." I thought maybe he wanted to drop by, see my first real place, toast the milestone. Instead, he and my mom told me they wanted me to sign it over to my brother Lucas. They insisted it was the right thing for the family, that I was selfish for keeping something I'd bought on my own. 3 weeks later, they filed a lawsuit to take it away. My name is Paige Martin, I'm 35 years old, and this is the story of how I fought to keep what was mine, and how one single question from a judge cracked every lie my parents had built. Let me bring you back to the day it all started, to the betrayal that felt like a knife twisting between my ribs. That morning, after Dad's text, I set my mug down on the counter and called him. His face appeared on my screen, worn and tight. No hint of pride, no softness. "We've talked it through," he said, "and we believe it'd be fairer if Lucas had the house." I stared at him, my brain blank. "What?" "He's buried in loans. You're stable, Paige. You could easily buy another place." The weight settled on my chest like wet concrete. Dad continued, voice steely. "It's time you gave back to the family." I said nothing, just listened to his measured breaths, knowing a battle had begun. Then my mom, Janice, appeared beside him. Her hair still twisted up in a towel, robe cinched at the waist. My mom spoke with a softness that felt rehearsed. "Paige, we gave you everything we could." Her voice was gentle, but firm, like a parent explaining bedtime rules to a child. "And now we're just asking you to do the same for your brother." My throat went tight. "You didn't give me this house," I said. "No," she confessed quietly, "but we raised you. You wouldn't be where you are without us." Her words were smooth and measured, not cruel, but hollow, like someone scooping out my insides with a metal spoon. Then she said it. "You're being selfish." That word, selfish, burned more than the rest, as though keeping what I'd earned was some shameful betrayal. My dad leaned closer to the camera, his jaw stiff. "You have a moral obligation to this family." I didn't scream. I didn't defend myself. I hung up. Not because I was angry, but because I knew if I stayed on that call, I might lose the small part of me still sure I deserved what I'd worked for. Lucas, my brother, 2 years younger than me, was always the one who needed saving. He had a degree in music production, no steady job, but thousands of TikTok followers for his lo-fi beats and cozy aesthetic videos. He still lived at home, waiting for life to rearrange itself around his needs. And somehow, it always did. Missed rent? My parents paid it. Panicked during finals? They flew him to Sedona for mental clarity. When he totaled the family's Subaru at 17, they bought him a replacement. I rode city buses until I was 23. At 16, I delivered sandwiches, rang up groceries, cleaned theaters, sorted mail at a postal annex. Whatever kept the lights on. By 18, I was on my own. I skipped prom to save for a 1999 Toyota Corolla with mismatched doors. I lived in studios that smelt like pine sol and despair. Went to community college, night classes, learned coding, then boot camps, then certificate after certificate. It wasn't magic, it was relentless work. Meanwhile, Lucas was in Iceland, finding inspiration. His tuition, travel, even the clothes for his video shoots, all funded by my parents. When I emailed Mom my freshman year, begging for $120.00 for a database textbook, she wrote back that same night. "We're focusing our financial help on Lucas right now. Hope you understand." I did. I stopped asking. But even then, I never imagined they'd try to take my house, the one thing I'd built alone, because Lucas needed a fresh start. A week after that call, a courier knocked on my Portland doorstep with legal papers. My parents, Greg and Janice Martin, were suing me, claiming I owed the family a debt I'd never agreed to repay. They were demanding I transfer my house to Lucas. On top of that, I was supposed to take over his student loan payments and pay $289,300.00 for emotional damages. Apparently, that's the price tag for raising me. I sat cross-legged on my bare living room floor. No art on the walls, no shelves up yet. The silence pressed in, thick as fog. Suddenly the house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a crime scene. My parents claimed I owed them because I'd never have become successful without their early investment, like my entire life was a stock they'd bought low and now wanted to cash out, like love came with a ledger. But that's not how it went. I'd been working since 16, counting coins for bus fare, living off tips and boxed mac and cheese. Whenever I'd asked for help, tuition money, rent, a co-signer, it was the same script. "We're focusing our support on Lucas right now." So I learned how to vanish into the background, to be the dependable one, the quiet one. The higher I climbed, the more invisible I became. And now they were suing me because I dared to build something they couldn't claim as theirs. The day after the courier dropped off the papers, Lucas posted a TikTok, a sunlit kitchen with butcher block counters, brass poles, dried herbs hanging above the sink. The caption read, "I can't wait to make this place my home. So grateful to my family for fighting for what's right." Number 6 wasn't even my kitchen, just a photo from Pinterest. But the comments rolled in. "You deserve it, man. Real kings get castles." Lucas knew I'd poured $77,000.00 of my savings into the down payment, knew I'd worked 18-hour days, fueled by coffee and stubbornness, to buy this place. But to him, my house wasn't mine. It was already his. Or maybe my independence was a threat because it hadn't been handed to me. Lucas wasn't cruel. He could be sweet, thoughtful, sending goofy voice notes, calling for advice about music software or landlords. But he lived in another version of our family story. In his version, he was the overlooked dreamer, the good son, just unlucky. My parents fed that story like scripture. "He's had a hard time," my mom once said, when Lucas came back early from Iceland because the hostel had weird vibes. Meanwhile, I was being audited by the IRS for a self-employment filing mistake. I handled it quietly, like always. That same week, my Aunt Elaine, my mom's sister, called me, furious that I'd never invited her to my community college graduation years ago. "You've let success go to your head," she snapped. I didn't tell her the truth, that I hadn't invited anyone, that I hadn't even walked the stage because I was working a double shift at the time. Later, I found out Aunt Elaine was funding my parents' lawsuit, not because she believed Lucas deserved my house, but because she thought I needed to be brought back down to earth. That's what family meant to them. If stories like mine strike a chord, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss what happened next, because the courtroom showdown was only the beginning. That's what favoritism looks like when it wears the mask of fairness. It doesn't scream or strike. It quietly clears the path for one child, while the other fades away. And when the quiet one finally says no, it's labeled rebellion. For years, I was the invisible one, the daughter who asked for little and usually got less. I remember being 17, standing in our tiny kitchen in Portland, asking my mom if she could help with $50 for a bus pass. She sighed, eyes on her phone, and said money was tight. A week later, Lucas got a brand new laptop for his music projects. I didn't get jealous, I just got quieter. I worked harder, saved more, built a career in cybersecurity through endless nights and layer upon layer of certifications. I didn't go to private universities or take spring breaks in Lisbon. I rented apartments with peeling paint, ate dollar store pasta, and learned Python on a battered laptop that froze every hour. My parents called Lucas sensitive, creative, full of promise. They called me practical, which really meant, you'll figure it out. And I did. I learned how to pay my own way, how to climb without help, how to stretch every dollar until I could buy a house free and clear. But the instant I did, they saw it as a resource for Lucas. The lawsuit wasn't only about the house. It was about control, about them realizing I no longer belonged to their narrative, and that terrified them. They'd built a family where Lucas was the star, and I was the stagehand, expected to stay in the shadows and clap. When I stepped into my own spotlight, they panicked. They thought their guilt trips would pull me back in line. But I wasn't that quiet daughter anymore. Over the years, I'd saved every record, not out of spite, but survival. Emails from college begging for textbook money, always answered with, "We're focusing on Lucas right now." Bank statements, pay stubs, receipts for my first car. Those records became my armor. The first hearing happened 2 months after the papers arrived. I came alone, no lawyer. Just my interview suit and a folder stuffed with documents, pay stubs, mortgage papers, wire receipts. When my parents walked in, I barely knew them. Lucas hovered by my mom, clinging to her arm. Behind them stood Aunt Elaine, hair curled, eyes sharp. They showed up in matching white t-shirts stamped with bold black letters, "Family comes first." I didn't flinch. I just faced forward and waited. The courtroom felt cold under buzzing fluorescent lights, nearly empty except for the judge, the clerk, the court reporter, and a few strangers scattered across the benches. The bailiff called our case. We stood. Their lawyer, a weary-looking man in a loose tie, began reading the claim. The Martins contend that Paige would not be in her current financial position without their emotional, physical, and financial investment. In light of Lucas's financial hardship, Paige should transfer the home to Lucas and continue paying the mortgage for 2 years. The judge turned to me. "Do you have a response, Ms. Martin?" I rose, my voice calm. "Your Honor, I'm the sole mortgage holder. I paid every cent myself. There's no cosigner, no loans from my parents, no legal obligation." I handed over my folder of documents. A hush stretched across the room. Then the circus began. Lucas stepped forward, tears glimmering in his eyes, and tried to hug me. "I forgive you," he murmured, just loud enough for the court to hear. "I forgive you for dragging this out." I stepped away. He stumbled. My mother gasped like I'd slapped her. Aunt Elaine hissed, "Ungrateful little thing." The judge rapped her gavel. "Order, please." Their lawyers started presenting photo albums from vacations I barely remembered. A crumpled $12.99 burger receipt from 2004 was labeled as evidence of parental investment. Screenshots of texts I'd sent, "Love you all," were held up as proof of an emotional bond. Then Lucas pitched a plan to turn my house into a recording retreat for emerging musicians. The judge asked, "Have you earned income from this work?" Lucas hesitated, then smiled. "I'm a digital creator. I'm building my brand. These things take time." "What's your current income?" the judge pressed. Lucas looked at my mother, who interjected, "He's in a transitional phase." The judge turned to me. "Ms. Martin, anything else you'd like to submit?" I nodded and handed over a slim folder. Emails from college asking for help. Always answered, "We're focused on helping Lucas right now." The judge read them slowly, leaned back, and swept the courtroom with a look that seemed to see every lie. 5 days later, the ruling arrived. Case dismissed. No legal merit. No big drama, just a quiet line confirming what I'd known all along. You can't sue your child for choosing freedom. But silence didn't last. The next day, my security camera caught Lucas standing by my driveway, nervous, frozen, then leaving without a word. 10 minutes later, Aunt Elaine appeared outside my fence, gripping a can of spray paint. She froze when the motion light blinked on, then slipped away into the night. I filed a police report. The next morning, Lucas launched a GoFundMe titled, Help me rebuild my future after my sister stole my home. He used that same Pinterest kitchen photo, the one with subway tiles and brass fixtures, and claimed I'd cheated the system and abandoned family values. My mom started posting in local Portland Facebook groups, calling me ungrateful, insisting I'd shattered the family. Then the text came. Due to recent events, Paige will not be welcome at Thanksgiving until she makes things right. I didn't reply. I ordered Thai food and watched a documentary about sunken treasure ships. The family group chat fell apart a few days later. My cousin Rachel spoke first. You paid for Lucas's $200,000 0 cents music degree while I worked nights to get through community college. Then another cousin chimed in. Remember when I asked for $200 for textbooks and you said money was tight, but bought Lucas a MacBook that same week? The chat blew up. Quiet relatives started remembering all the times they'd been passed over, all the quiet sacrifices no one talked about. Even Grandpa Raymond, my father's dad, finally spoke up. You two are a disgrace. Paige succeeded in spite of you, not because of you. That sentence hit me harder than any courtroom ruling. It was the first time someone in our family said it out loud. 6 months have passed. I still haven't spoken to my parents. They text sometimes. My mom writes, "We're struggling financially. When will you come home? Your brother can't find stable housing. He's hurting." My dad sent a single, cold email. "When will you forgive us? Families should stick together." Don't reply. I don't block them. I just let the words arrive and go nowhere. Lucas works part-time at a coffee shop. He posts TikToks about rude customers and toxic family dynamics. His GoFundMe was eventually shut down for violating guidelines. Aunt Elaine received a formal warning at her job for using her company email to harass me. The house feels quiet now, but safe. Luna, my German Shepherd mix, sleeps by my feet. I adopted her 2 months ago. She's got a floppy ear and a faint scar near her paw, like she's been through her own battle. We understand each other just fine. Grandpa Raymond comes by every Sunday, bringing groceries and tools for my garage. He'd tried to see me for years, but my parents always had excuses. Too busy, too tired. Now we sit together, eating simple meals and talking about weather, squeaky doors, and other topics that require no performance. Last week, he showed me a picture from my community college graduation. I hadn't invited anyone, but there he was in the back, hands tucked in his pockets, watching from behind a chain-link fence. "I never missed you," he said quietly. "I just wasn't allowed close." Then he looked me in the eyes and added, "I'm proud of you, Paige. You didn't let them take what wasn't theirs." I didn't cry. I just nodded, poured him more coffee, and watched the sun slide low across my backyard. Sometimes, I feel the urge to explain, to write one long message, listing every unpaid favor, every quiet ache, every moment I held my tongue. But then Luna curls up near the door, and soft light spills across the floorboards. And I remember, I don't owe anyone an explanation for surviving well. The deed stays locked in a drawer by the window. It's not just a house. It's proof I got out, stayed out, and didn't come back to beg for love. I came back so they'd finally have to stop lying. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. Share this with someone who might need the reminder that they're allowed to stand their ground. Drop a comment below and tell me your story of breaking free. Let's keep this conversation going. Your voice matters, and I'm listening.